Welcome to today's video. If you're here, it's because you want to improve your English while learning about one of the greatest minds in history. Today, we're diving deep into the life and legacy of Albert Einstein. Get ready for an incredible journey through the mind of the genius who changed the way we see the universe. If you're enjoying this type of content, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment about your favorite Einstein fact. Imagine a world where time is not absolute, space bends under gravity, and the smallest particles behave in ways we can barely comprehend. These are not just abstract ideas but real, tangible aspects of our universe, ideas brought to life by one man. Albert Einstein was not just a scientist, he was a revolutionary thinker, who reshaped physics and left an impact that is still felt today. But who was Einstein before he became the legendary figure we know? Was he always seen as a genius, or did he struggle like the rest of us? Let's step back in time to uncover the story of young Albert. Albert Einstein was born on March 14, 1879, in the city of Ulm, in what was then the German Empire. His early years did not immediately suggest that he was destined for greatness. In fact, his parents, Hermann and Pauline Einstein, were initially concerned about his development, because he took longer than usual to start speaking. This led to a common myth that Einstein was a slow learner, though later in life, he would prove to be anything but ordinary. One of the defining moments of his childhood came when his father gave him a small compass. Young Albert was mesmerized by how the needle always pointed north, even though no visible force seemed to be acting upon it. This seemingly simple experience ignited his curiosity about unseen forces and the fundamental laws that govern the universe. From an early age, he displayed an intense fascination with science and mathematics, preferring to spend hours solving problems on his own rather than engaging in typical childhood activities. His school experience, however, was far from ideal. Contrary to the popular myth that Einstein was a poor student, he actually excelled in math and physics. However, he disliked the rigid and authoritarian style of the German education system, which focused on rote memorization rather than creativity and exploration. Einstein often clashed with his teachers, who saw his questioning nature as a sign of defiance rather than intellectual curiosity. He once famously remarked that education is what remains after one has forgotten everything he learned in school. Despite these struggles, Einstein's passion for knowledge only grew stronger. When his family moved to Munich, he attended the Luitpold Gymnasium, where he deepened his interest in physics and mathematics. However, at the age of 16, he decided to leave school without a formal diploma. His independent spirit and dissatisfaction with traditional education led him to seek alternative paths. Determined to pursue his dream of becoming a physicist, Einstein applied to the Swiss Federal Polytechnic School in Zurich. However, he initially failed the entrance exam, performing well in math and physics, but struggling in other subjects such as languages and history. Undeterred, he spent a year improving his weaker subjects, and successfully gained admission in 1896. This marked the beginning of his academic journey, but his struggles were far from over. Even at the university level, Einstein often found himself at odds with his professors. He preferred to study independently, diving into complex scientific problems on his own rather than following the structured curriculum. This unconventional approach frustrated his instructors, but allowed him to develop a deep and original understanding of physics. At this stage, few people could have predicted that this rebellious student would go on to revolutionize science. But Einstein was just getting started. By the time Einstein graduated from the Swiss Federal Polytechnic in Zurich in 1900, he was eager to make a name for himself in the world of physics. However, his journey was anything but smooth. Despite his remarkable talent, he struggled to secure an academic position. His unconventional approach to learning had not endeared him to his professors, and he lacked strong recommendations to help him land a university job. As a result, he ended up working at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern in 1902. At first glance, a patent clerk job seemed like an uninspiring detour for a brilliant mind like Einstein's. Yet, this period would prove to be one of the most productive times of his life. With fewer academic pressures, Einstein had the freedom to think deeply about the fundamental questions that had always fascinated him. Between reviewing patent applications, his mind wandered to the mysteries of space, time, and light. Then came the year 1905, which is often referred to as Einstein's annus mirabilis, or miracle year. In just 12 months, he published 4 groundbreaking scientific papers, each of which would go on to change the course of physics. These papers covered topics such as the photoelectric effect, Brownian motion, special relativity, and the famous equation E=mc². Among these works, his theory of special relativity stood out as a complete revolution in physics. Up until that point, scientists believed that time and space were absolute, meaning they existed independently of each other. Einstein shattered this notion by proposing that time and space were interconnected, forming what we now call spacetime. According to his theory, time does not flow at the same rate for everyone. It can slow down or speed up depending on how fast you are moving. This was a radical idea, but it was supported by a simple thought experiment. Imagine 2 observers, one standing still and another traveling at a significant fraction of the speed of light. Einstein's equations predicted that the moving observer would experience time more slowly compared to the stationary observer. This phenomenon, known as time dilation, has since been confirmed through numerous experiments and is a crucial principle in modern physics. The most famous result of special relativity was the equation E=mc², which demonstrated that mass and energy are interchangeable. This meant that even a small amount of mass could be converted into an enormous amount of energy, a principle that would later lead to the development of nuclear energy and atomic bombs. At the time, however, Einstein had no idea how significant this equation would become in the future. Despite the brilliance of his ideas, Einstein's work was not immediately recognized. The physics community was skeptical of such a radical departure from classical mechanics. But over time, as more evidence accumulated, it became clear that Einstein had uncovered something truly revolutionary. As the world slowly began to grasp the significance of his discoveries, Einstein was about to take his place among the greatest scientists in history. By 1915, Einstein had taken his revolutionary ideas even further. While his special theory of relativity explained how time and space were connected for objects moving at a constant speed, he realized that it did not fully account for the effects of gravity. This led him to develop what would become his crowning achievement, the general theory of relativity. Unlike Isaac Newton's classical view, which described gravity as a force acting between objects, Einstein proposed something entirely different. He suggested that massive objects, like planets and stars, actually bend the fabric of spacetime around them. This curvature of spacetime is what we perceive as gravity. To illustrate this, imagine placing a heavy ball on a stretched rubber sheet. The ball creates a dent, and smaller objects placed near it will roll toward the heavier mass, not because of an invisible force, but because the surface itself is curved. Einstein's equations predicted that even light, which was thought to travel in a perfectly straight line, should follow the curve of spacetime when passing near a massive object. However, for such a bold theory to be accepted, it needed experimental proof. That proof came in 1919, during a total solar eclipse. British astronomer Sir Arthur Eddington led an expedition to observe whether the light from distant stars bent as it passed by the sun. The results confirmed Einstein's predictions. The stars appeared slightly out of place due to the sun's gravitational field bending their light. When the findings were published, Einstein became an instant celebrity. Newspapers around the world hailed him as a genius who had overturned centuries of physics. Headlines declared that Newton's laws had been surpassed, and Einstein's name was suddenly known beyond the scientific community. Despite his sudden fame, Einstein remained focused on his work. However, recognition finally brought him the academic position he had long struggled to attain. In 1921, he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics, not for his work on relativity, but for his explanation of the photoelectric effect, one of the key discoveries that paved the way for quantum mechanics. The photoelectric effect described how light, when shined on a metal surface, could eject electrons from that surface. This discovery was crucial because it demonstrated that light behaved not only as a wave, as previously believed, but also as a particle. This dual nature of light would become one of the foundational principles of modern quantum physics. Ironically, Einstein himself was never entirely comfortable with quantum mechanics. The idea that the universe operated on probabilities rather than absolute certainty disturbed him. He famously remarked, "God does not play dice with the universe," expressing his belief that there had to be deeper, deterministic laws governing reality. Despite his doubts, quantum mechanics would go on to revolutionize physics, leading to technologies like lasers, semiconductors, and modern computers. Einstein was now more than a scientist, he was an icon. His wild hair, sharp wit, and deep philosophical reflections made him a beloved public figure. But as his fame grew, so did the challenges he would face, both in science and in the world around him. As the 1930s unfolded, the world was heading toward a dark and dangerous period. The rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi regime in Germany forced Einstein, who was Jewish, to make a life-changing decision. He had long been an outspoken critic of militarism and nationalism, and as antisemitism intensified in Germany, it became clear that he could no longer stay in his home country. In 1933, after Hitler came to power, Einstein renounced his German citizenship and moved to the United States, where he accepted a position at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey. While Einstein was settling into his new life in America, alarming reports emerged that Nazi Germany was conducting nuclear research. Scientists feared that Hitler's regime might develop an atomic bomb, a terrifying prospect that could change the course of history. Einstein, who had always been a pacifist, was deeply concerned. At the urging of physicist Leo Szilard, he agreed to sign a letter addressed to President Franklin D. Roosevelt in 1939, warning that Germany could be on the path to building a nuclear weapon. This letter played a crucial role in the creation of the Manhattan Project, the top-secret U.S. initiative that ultimately developed the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. However, despite his influence in raising the alarm, Einstein was not directly involved in the project. In fact, he was denied security clearance due to his pacifist views and political associations. The irony was bitter. The man whose equation, E equals mc squared, had laid the foundation for nuclear energy was considered too much of a security risk to participate in its military application. When the bombs were finally used against Japan, Einstein was devastated. He deeply regretted his role in setting these events into motion, stating, "Had I known that the Germans would not succeed in developing an atomic bomb, I would not have lifted a finger." The immense destruction caused by nuclear weapons strengthened his resolve to fight for peace. In the years following World War II, Einstein became one of the most vocal advocates for nuclear disarmament. He co-founded the Emergency Committee of Atomic Scientists, warning of the catastrophic consequences of future nuclear wars. He also supported global governance efforts, believing that only a united world government could prevent humanity from destroying itself with these weapons. Einstein's political activism extended beyond nuclear issues. He was a staunch supporter of civil rights, speaking out against racism in the United States. He corresponded with W.E.B. Du Bois and publicly supported the case of Paul Robeson, both of whom were black activists targeted during the era of McCarthyism. Einstein called racism America's worst disease, and openly criticized segregation, even refusing to speak at certain universities that enforced racial discrimination. By this time, Einstein was more than a scientist. He had become a symbol of intellectual and moral authority. But as the world continued to change around him, he would soon face the final chapter of his extraordinary life. Beyond his scientific genius and political activism, Albert Einstein was, above all, a profoundly complex and fascinating individual. His public image as the eccentric professor with wild hair and a mischievous smile was not just a caricature, it reflected his true personality. He was known for his sharp wit, his tendency to forget everyday tasks, and his deep love for music. Einstein was an avid violinist who often turned to music as a source of inspiration. He believed that playing the violin helped him think more clearly, stating that many of his greatest ideas came to him while playing Mozart or Bach. This love for music was not just a hobby, it was a fundamental part of his intellectual process. Despite his legendary status, Einstein was not without personal struggles. His relationships, especially those with his wives and children, were complicated. He married Mileva Maric, a fellow physics student, in 1903. Their marriage was initially fueled by a shared passion for science, but over time, their relationship became strained. Einstein's deep immersion in his work, combined with personal differences, led to a painful separation and eventual divorce in 1919. Their relationship became particularly bitter when Einstein presented a list of strict conditions that Mileva had to accept if she wanted to continue their marriage. These conditions were cold and unemotional, dictating how she should behave in their household. Unsurprisingly, the marriage fell apart. After the divorce, Einstein agreed to give Mileva the money from his future Nobel Prize, which he had not yet won at the time. Shortly after his divorce, Einstein married his cousin, Elsa Einstein. Unlike his first marriage, this relationship was more stable, as Elsa took on a nurturing role, allowing Einstein to focus on his work. However, Einstein was known for being emotionally distant and often unfaithful, as revealed in letters that surfaced years after his death. Despite his personal flaws, those close to him described him as warm, humorous, and deeply empathetic toward humanity, even if he struggled with personal intimacy. His children also had a difficult relationship with him. His eldest son, Hans Albert Einstein, followed a respectable career in engineering, but their father-son dynamic was often strained. His second son, Edward Einstein, suffered from schizophrenia and spent much of his life in psychiatric institutions. Einstein was deeply troubled by Edward's condition, but as his career took him across the world, he was largely absent from his son's life. Beyond his family life, Einstein had a number of quirks and eccentricities. He hated wearing socks, claiming they were unnecessary and often got holes in them anyway. He rarely combed his hair and had a habit of going for long walks, lost in thought. His memory for theoretical physics was unmatched, but he would often forget mundane things, like where he had left his house keys. Even as one of the most famous people in the world, Einstein remained unimpressed by material wealth. He turned down many prestigious offers, including the presidency of Israel in 1952, stating that he lacked the necessary political skills. Instead, he preferred a simple life, filled with books, scientific discussions, and philosophical reflections. Despite his flaws and contradictions, Einstein's humanity made him even more intriguing. He was not just a theoretical physicist, he was a thinker, a dreamer, and a man who, despite understanding the fabric of the universe, still grappled with the complexities of human relationships. As Einstein grew older, his influence on the world only deepened. By the time he reached his later years, he had already reshaped physics, left a mark on political activism, and become a symbol of intellectual curiosity. But even as the world moved forward, Einstein remained restless, always searching for answers to the universe's deepest mysteries. One of his greatest scientific frustrations in his final decades was his quest for a unified field theory. After revolutionizing physics with relativity, Einstein sought to develop a single theoretical framework that could unite all the fundamental forces of nature, gravity, electromagnetism, and later, the weak and strong nuclear forces. He firmly believed that the universe operated on elegant, deterministic laws, and was deeply uncomfortable with the unpredictability of quantum mechanics. However, this pursuit put him at odds with the younger generation of physicists. While Einstein resisted the strange and probabilistic nature of quantum mechanics, figures like Niels Bohr and Werner Heisenberg were embracing it, leading to major advancements in modern physics. Einstein's famous debates with Bohr on the nature of reality became legendary in the scientific community. Despite his skepticism, quantum mechanics went on to shape the future of technology, from transistors to computers to lasers. As Einstein focused on his work, the world around him continued to change. By the 1940s and 1950s, the Cold War was escalating, and nuclear weapons were a looming threat to global stability. Einstein, once indirectly responsible for the creation of the atomic bomb, dedicated much of his final years to advocating for peace. He warned of the dangers of nuclear proliferation, and called for international cooperation to prevent another world war. His final public act came in 1955, when he signed the Russell-Einstein Manifesto, a document urging world leaders to seek peaceful resolutions to conflicts and avoid the catastrophic consequences of nuclear war. His message was clear: humanity's survival depended on its ability to control its most destructive inventions. By this time, Einstein's health was deteriorating. He had suffered from abdominal aortic aneurysm, a condition that doctors had diagnosed years earlier. On April 17, 1955, he experienced internal bleeding, but he refused surgical intervention, stating that he wanted to die naturally rather than prolong his life artificially. Albert Einstein passed away on April 18, 1955, at the age of 76. His final words, spoken in German, were lost forever, as the nurse attending him did not understand the language. However, even in death, Einstein's legacy took an unexpected turn. In a controversial act, the pathologist who conducted his autopsy, Dr. Thomas Stoltz Harvey, removed Einstein's brain without permission, hoping to study the physical structure of his intellect. For decades, Harvey kept sections of Einstein's brain, sharing them with researchers and scientists. While some studies claimed to find unusual features, no definitive conclusion was reached about whether Einstein's brain was anatomically unique. More than just a collection of neurons, Einstein's true genius lay in his way of thinking. He had an extraordinary ability to question the foundations of knowledge, see connections where others saw contradictions, and embrace the mysteries of the universe with childlike wonder. Even today, his theories remain the foundation of modern physics, influencing everything from GPS technology to black hole research. His vision of the cosmos, his philosophical insights, and his advocacy for peace continue to inspire scientists, thinkers, and dreamers across the world. Albert Einstein may have left this world in 1955, but his impact is eternal. Albert Einstein was not just one of the greatest scientists in history, he was also a profound thinker and a great humanist. His words, filled with wisdom, continue to inspire generations far beyond physics. His legacy is not only in his equations and theories, but also in his reflections on life, curiosity, knowledge, and humanity. One of his most famous quotes summarizes his approach to learning: imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the entire world. Einstein believed that true genius did not lie in memorizing facts, but in the ability to see beyond the obvious, make unexpected connections, and challenge the limits of what was possible. His intellectual humility was also evident. He always acknowledged that no matter how much we learned, there were still infinite mysteries left to explore. As he once said, "The more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know." This phrase reflects his restless spirit in the pursuit of truth and his constant wonder at the mysteries of the universe. Another striking aspect of his philosophy was his outlook on life and happiness. He rejected the pursuit of status and wealth, preferring a simple and meaningful existence. He expressed this clearly when he said, "A calm and modest life brings more happiness than the pursuit of success combined with constant restlessness." Despite his fame, he was never interested in luxury or power, living humbly until his final days. His vision of humanity was also remarkable. He was a great advocate for peace and human rights, always warning of the dangers of intolerance and war. He once stated, "The world is a dangerous place to live, not because of those who do evil, but because of those who watch and do nothing." His words remain relevant, reminding us of the responsibility we all have to fight for a better world. Even regarding religion and the existence of God, Einstein had a unique perspective. He was not religious in a traditional sense, nor was he an atheist. He described himself as a deeply religious agnostic, believing in a kind of cosmic harmony. He stated, "I want to know how God thinks. The rest are details." To him, science and spirituality were not opposites, but different ways of trying to understand the great mystery of the universe. His thoughts on time and death also reflect his genius and deep philosophical vision. When a friend passed away, he wrote, "The distinction between past, present, and future is only an illusion, although a persistent one." This idea connects directly with his theory of relativity, which showed that time is not absolute, but a flexible dimension intertwined with space. Albert Einstein passed away in 1955, but his influence never faded. His discoveries still shape modern science, his words continue to inspire, and his life remains an example of what it means to question, dream, and seek the truth. His name has become synonymous with genius, but more than that, he taught us that true genius lies in never stopping to ask, imagine, and believe that there is always something new to discover. And now, I ask you, which of Einstein's quotes or ideas inspires you the most? Leave your comment below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories of history's greatest minds. See you next time.